Won't you agree that sometimes torture can, even though it's a form of oppression, but it sometimes can achieve security?
Freshta Raper.
Shall I answer this? In my case, in case of thousands of people, which is I know I've spoken to, it's the very fortunate people whom survive in torture. 99.9% of the time, every one of them innocent. 99% of the time, they will confess on something they have never done, they have no idea about it, but the amount of the pain they are under, most of them, they will do a false confession to do whatever to get out of that pain and that degrading position.
Can I just ask why do you think torture might bring some stability to the region?
If we look at Iraq currently, perhaps if we implement some form of torture, not perhaps a constructive form of torture, or torture form that can help save lives, we can help end this mess that's ongoing now.
Look at the situation in Iraq. Why is the violation day after day is getting worse? What happened after Abu Ghraib when they tortured and they humiliated the prisoners? What had happened? Every individual have a very, very negative impact on the family in the society, and the tribe, and make anger, make resentment. Everyone's a revenge. No, torture never ever been a solution and never will be a solution. In fact, impact more terrorism instead of safety and stability.
All right, lady in the third row.
Well, basically, it's a matter of fact that torture happens in places like Egypt and Iraq and Syria. Torture does happen, so isn't it actually better for us to regulate it?
It can't be regulated in a non-democratic country. It will never be regulated in non-democratic countries.
What about in a democratic country?
Even though they will abuse it. Even in the United States, abuse it. In the United Kingdom, they abuse it. In all the cases, if you look at the history of Amnesty International, you can see the cases in every country.
They abuse it in the UK? Khawar,
can you give me an example of a recent case where somebody has found that there's been torture or there's systematic torture in the English legal system? I'm not aware of it, I'm afraid.
But what you will have a problem is how the judges will decide. I mean, should there be a 30% chance that this person has the information? 50%? 70% before you torture the person? Should you use needles under their fingers, in the fingers? Should you beat them up? Should you dunk them in water until they feel they're drowning? Imagine judges having to make those kinds of... How do you regulate...
Can you let him answer? You've asked a lot of questions.
We receive thousands of claims for asylum every single year in the UK, and our courts have to decide whether it's right to send somebody back to where they came from, because if they do, will they expose them to a real risk of persecution? And I can tell you, the legal test that the courts adopt is one of anxious scrutiny. And I've seen the judges, and I've seen how careful they are. And they would be equally careful in such a situation. I'd rather have them looking at this than some men deciding the question behind closed doors.
Can I ask a follow-up question? Would the person who is going to be tortured have the right to defend himself there? An asylum seeker usually has an opportunity to defend his case.
No, you're asking me, your question was about the approach of the judge, and I've answered it.
This is what I'm saying. The judges, because they will only hear one side of the case, how will the judge be able to decide the other person, the person who is at most risk, will have no voice in that
Because the judge will have to be satisfied on the basis of clear, cogent and compelling evidence that a case exists to justify the issuing of the warrant.
We're going to move on. Gentlemen in the front row, please.
We see many cases, people being big or strong suspects in, for example, a terrorist attack. Don't you agree torture should be regulated in just that one condition, that they are almost certain that they will find crucial information that will save many lives?
Irene?
I don't believe that torture will happen no matter what. I mean, Khawar himself has said how in the UK...
Why not? It always has.
No, because Amnesty's first report came out in 1973. Since then, many countries no longer use torture. They have put in methods to control torture during interrogation because they found other ways of being able to convict people. So I don't believe that torture is the only way in which you can gather intelligence.
But if they were faced in torture and they know that they're going to be living in pain for a long time, will they not surrender? Will they not give that information?
No, there are people who blow themselves up. You know, there are suicide bombers. If people are willing to sacrifice their own lives, and if they want to hide the information, there are people who get tortured and who don't give up information, they die. That happens everywhere, not just innocent people, but also guilty people.
All right, we'll take a lady in the second row there, please.
My question is to the left side of the panel. Can you please explain to me your argument of how torture can save lives? Because from what I think, torture causes hatred, and from hatred there is revenge.
Let's take a hypothetical example, because we can't talk it any other way. I know that this person has information that might well save people's lives. I want to administer coercive questioning on that person. The only technique I can use is a truth serum or some injection. I don't know quite, I'm not a doctor, but that person gets injected, and that's the only technique I can use for that person to tell the truth. He or she doesn't get hurt in the long run, but we get the information out. Now, I don't like it. It's torture, but it's not pulling people's fingernails out, and it's not long-term, and it's over quickly, and we get information, and people might not die in consequence.